What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of my 2019 F1 modded career mode. Back today for round number 8 at the French Grand Prix here at the Paul Ricard circuit. And thanks ever so much for the support on this series guys, it really is appreciated. And if you're not subscribed, do make sure to do so because we are edging ever closer to 10,000 subscribers. Also, if you are enjoying this video, do make sure to leave a like down below. It really helps the channel, so thanks ever so much for that. But getting into today's race, and for the first time this season, we don't have any upgrades on the car. And the reason for that is because we've spent all of our resource points on some pretty big upgrades. So next time out at the Austrian Grand Prix, we've just got a small one in terms of the durability. So we've got a reduction in gearbox wear, but we also have two major upgrades. One which will be with us in 2 rounds time for the British Grand Prix, and that is a powertrain related upgrade. And then we'll have a big aerodynamics upgrade with us for the German Grand Prix. So yeah, as I said, we've gone static for the first time in quite a long time in terms of upgrades, but fortunately Haas, who are below us, haven't made any upgrades either, and the teams above us as well haven't really made any significant gains. So now it's time to take a look at the starting grid for this French Grand Prix, and it's a normal front row with Hamilton and Vettel, but the big surprise comes on row 2, because would you believe it, we managed to stick it in 3rd position ahead of Charles Leclerc, Valtteri Bottas and both of the Red Bull drivers, with Daniel Ricciardo also out-qualifying Verstappen and Gasly. But I bet you guys are thinking, how the hell did you do that? Well, it was a damp qualifying. We took a little bit of a risk. I think we went onto the intermediate tyres when it was looking a bit dodgy. But yeah, we just managed to put in a good lap, and yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. I wouldn't expect us to stay there during the race, because in practice we were sort of between 7th and 10th in all of the practice sessions. But I'm just going to enjoy it while I'm there, and hopefully we can put together a good performance today and maybe sneak into the top 6. Now, the advantage of it being a wet qualifying was that we can pick whatever tyre we want to start the race. So we're going to go on the second softest compound, the super soft tyres, and go and try for a one-stop strategy this afternoon. I believe a lot of the other cars around me will probably do the same as well, and then change over to the soft tyres on lap 12 of 27 at this Grand Prix. But we'll have to see, and you know, just wait to see how things pan out. So the formalities are out of the way, and it's time to get on to the formation lap before we get going here at the Paul Ricard circuit. So taking a look in the bottom right at the driver's standings, you can see we jumped ahead of Carlos Sainz last time out, but we are still behind Sergio Perez and Kevin Magnussen in the standings. I think realistically, we can hope to finish above them before the end of the season. I think the top 6 looks pretty much locked in, although it's been a poor start from Pierre Gasly. And starting in P3 today gives us a great opportunity to gain some more points. But here we go then, to the 5 red lights here at Paul Ricard, and away we go. It's a relatively decent start. Leclerc closing in on us, but it looks as if we're going to just about hold it. No, Bottas is ahead of us into turn 1. He started on the ultra soft tyres, and he's got ahead of us into turn 1, but we sweep round the outside there of turn 2, and it looks as if there was a bit of contact behind us. Fortunately, though, we managed to get through nice and safely, as did the top 2 of Hamilton and Vettel, who were following each other through this opening section of corners. And now we go through turn 5, 6 and 7, which pretty much come all the way back on each other. And on to the Mistral Straight we now go. So we're within a relatively decent distance of Sebastian Vettel. Maybe not quite enough to have a look at him into the chicane at turns 8 and 9. Yes, we are just too far back. Of course, no DRS active at the moment, but we are looking decent, and we've stayed in P3 on the opening lap of this Grand Prix. You can see using quite a lot of ERS on the opening lap of the race, and also using a rich mix of fuels. With 0.6 of a second now behind Sebastian Vettel, just a little bit too far back to have a look into the final sector of this track. But there you can see, taking a relatively decent line, and to be honest, in practice we were really struggling through this final sector, and as you can see, just it's very much the turning of the car. And we're going to have a look on board now with Valtteri Bottas, of course, in a better car in that Mercedes. And we go very wide into the penultimate corner there at turn 14. And somehow we just about managed to hold it through the final turn. But the aerodynamics on that Mercedes, of course, a lot better than on my Renault. And it's also looking a lot better in a straight line as Bottas gets a good run on us into turn 1, but runs a little bit wide. And once again, we're going to go sweeping round the outside of turn 2 and hold it ahead of him into the end of the first sector. And Bottas is going to take another look down the inside as he locks up, and that looks as if he's going to hinder himself, as of course there's a couple of cars queued up behind him, and Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen both go through on the Finnish driver, and it is now going to be Max Verstappen in the Honda powered Red Bull behind us on to the Mistral Straight. So once again, using high ERS deployment, not quite overtake mode, because of course we do need to save some ERS for the remainder of the race. But still, even with that high ERS mode, it looks as if Verstappen was trying to go down the inside into the turn 8 and 9 chicane, but he thought better of it, and it looks as if he's now going to get a good run down this back end of the circuit. And there you can see Verstappen pulling out of the slipstream, and as we go into the flat out turn 10, he's going to go down the inside, and as is Charles Leclerc also going down the inside of us into the long right-hander of turn 11, and Bottas also trying to get ahead of us into this tricky section of circuit, and we have completely lost our head on lap 2 of the Grand Prix, been overtaken by 3 cars in a matter of about 3 corners. So very, very disappointing end to the lap. We've just got to hold our head now and not lose it, or else we could end up behind our teammate Daniel Ricciardo, who sits directly behind us now in P7. So it's not the start to the Grand Prix that we were looking for, but we're probably in about the position we should be now. So we're sat in at P6 with Valtteri Bottas ahead of us at this stage of the race. But I believe Daniel Ricciardo is currently ahead of Pierre Gasly. But anyway, we're going to take a look at a replay of the start of this Grand Prix. So we actually got quite a lot of wheel spin off the line. But we weren't challenged by Leclerc, but we were very much challenged by Valtteri Bottas, who tried to get past us. And that is what happened behind. So it was contact between Leclerc's front wheel and Bottas's rear wheel, which meant that the Mercedes man just couldn't get the purchase off turn 1 to actually make the move on us. But there you can see Bottas is the only one of the top 6, I think, that's starting on the ultra soft tyres. But it very much nearly paid off. Of course, he did get ahead of Charles Leclerc initially, and it looks as if he was going to get ahead of us if he didn't tangle with the Ferrari driver. So yeah, Bottas very unfortunate, and of course he now finds himself behind Leclerc as well as Verstappen as a result of the lockup that he had at the start of lap 2. And we've had something pretty much as bad as a lockup there. It was a big bit of wheel spin there off the exit of the chicane, and our teammate Daniel Ricciardo is capitalised and is now ahead of us going into turn 10. But we're going to stick behind him and try and get the slipstream and maybe go for a move there down the inside of turn 11. We go side by side with our teammate and do manage to get ahead of him through that long right-hander, and we are back up into P6 in this Grand Prix. But I don't think Ricciardo is done quite there, and also waiting to pounce behind is the Red Bull of Pierre Gasly. So we sit in P6 now. We've lost quite a bit of ground to Valtteri Bottas, and just like Bottas tried on lap 1, Ricciardo tried to go down our inside into the penultimate corner. We go through now the final turn, and you'd imagine Ricciardo is going to have a good bit of slipstream as well through the pit straight, as we are just under 0.4 of a second ahead of him, but we do manage to stay ahead of him for the meantime. And we now go ahead onto lap 6, and our teammate is no longer behind us. It is Pierre Gasly who has managed to get ahead of Ricciardo and is now trying to get ahead of ourselves. So once again, it's the end of the Mistral Straight, which is proving a real big overtaking opportunity. But this time it's for Pierre Gasly, who's going to try and go side by side with us through turn 11, tries to go down the inside, and we still stick side by side into this final sector. Gasly trying to brake late and go around that outside there. But he's lost a bit of pace now as we go through the final couple of corners, as we go through braking now into turn 14. And Gasly, just like seems to be happening every lap, tried to go down our inside into the penultimate corner. I'm going to get tired of saying that pretty soon, but that is exactly what he tried. And he's actually set himself up brilliantly for a move now on the pit straight. He's really got a good move on us done there. Of course, DRS active at this stage of the race. So Pierre Gasly moves up into P5. I believe one of the drivers ahead has come in to the pits. So that will be Valtteri Bottas, has already come into the pit lane on lap 6. So a very early stop. Of course, he did start on the ultra soft tyres. but it means that we are ahead of him at this stage of the race. And of course, if everyone else is also on the one-stop strategy, Bottas has got a lot of overtaking to do. But now back onto our own race, talking about ourselves, we are trying to close up on Pierre Gasly. Now the engine in the back of our car, the Renault power unit, should be stronger than that Honda in the back of Pierre Gasly's car, and you can see that we were gaining quite a bit there, but of course we did have the assistance of DRS and the overtake ERS mode. And rather than putting Gasly under pressure, we're under pressure from our teammate, Daniel Ricciardo. Jarvis to go down the inside of us into turn 10 now on lap 7 of this French Grand Prix. And it looks as if the Australian has got ahead of us. He pretty much parks it on the middle of turn 11. And as we go through the final few corners, we don't seem to have the pace to challenge Ricciardo in this final sector. And I think we're just going to have to stick behind him for the meantime. Probably try and stick within DRS range. But we don't really want to be battling with him too much, because I still believe that we may have the pace to get ahead of Pierre Gasly. Now, this race is starting to sort of become a bit of a battle between, you know, battling with cars and battling with our own tyre wear, because we do want to still make this one-stopper work. And if we do too much dueling with drivers in front of us, you know, racing too hard, then it's going to make the one-stopper difficult. But we skip one lap ahead onto the start of lap 9, and it looks as if Pierre Gasly has put a little bit of daylight between himself and Daniel Ricciardo in P6. And as we brake now at the end of this first sector into turns, the complex between turn 3 and 5, we're sticking behind Ricciardo, not getting too much dirty air either, which is good. You know, we're not really being affected by that, and we should now, yes, we do get the DRS on our teammate on to this Mistral straight. And turn 8 and 9 hasn't proven a big overtaking opportunity so far in this race, but are we about to change that as we try and go diving down the inside of our teammate? No, we're going to stick behind into turn 8 and maybe utilise that run down to turn 10, which of course so many drivers have overtaken us on. But no, once again, we just don't maybe seem to be getting a good exit off turn 9. Maybe that's why we're being overtaken so much there and not doing any overtaking ourselves. But yeah, as I say, we're going to try and stick behind Daniel Ricciardo. And at the moment, it's looking like it could be a battle to even get P6 in this Grand Prix, as we've now got Romain Grosjean trying to go around the outside of us, but he is going to stick behind for the meantime. Is he going to go for a move into the penultimate corner? I don't think he will be, because the man behind him, Sergio Perez, has had an engine failure, which has sparked a safety car in this Grand Prix. Horrible luck for the Racing Point man. And now we've got a safety car out on lap 9 of the Grand Prix, which sparked carnage in the pit lane because our teammate Daniel Ricciardo has come in, and so have we. Now, I felt that we had to come into the pit lane, or else, you know, we're not going to be able to make a one-stopper work in at this Grand Prix. But we're still going to stick with the soft tyres as we are waiting what seems like an age to come into the pit lane. And, well, if we're to make this one-stopper work, we're going to have to do 18 laps on the soft tyres. But when you think about it, we've got 3 laps under safety car, which means that we'll be able to save quite a lot of tyre life, which would mean that we've only got to do 15 laps, which is what we had originally planned. Because, yeah, the original schedule was to come in on lap 12, which means doing the final 15 laps on the soft tyres. So I reckon we can do this. Despite a lot of cars ahead of us not going for the soft tyre, it's looking like we're a bit of the odd one out. So we'll take a look at the running order behind the safety car now. And it is Max Verstappen who is currently leading by the looks of it in at the Red Bull. But I don't believe he has pitted. Whether he passed pit lane when, you know, when the pit stops were active, I'm not sure. But for some reason, he hasn't pitted. Then in P2, or net P1, we have got Sebastian Vettel, who has managed to jump Lewis Hamilton. Now, Hamilton's on the super softs, but the 2 Ferrari cars are on the ultra softs. So regardless, it looks as if everybody has gone for a 2-stop strategy. Bottas also on the super softs. Pierre Gasly on the ultra softs. Our teammate Daniel Ricciardo on the ultra soft tyres. So it's looking like everybody has pretty much committed to a 2-stopper apart from ourselves. Now, this could get interesting later on in the Grand Prix. Romain Grosjean also on the super softs, as is Carlos Sainz. Now, I think we are like the only ones that are on the soft tyre. which is a little bit unnerving because there's a few times this season we've tried to go for a different strategy and it really hasn't worked. So at this point, I'm thinking, have we made a mistake or is it going to be a masterstroke? I guess we'll find out in the coming 15 laps. But we'll try as best as we can as we get to the safety car restart to try and get to the end of this Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see whether that is the case. Of course, if we have another safety car in this Grand Prix, then we'll have to adjust our strategy. But at the restarts, it was pretty terrible for ourselves. Of course, that Kimi Raikkonen, who is the car ahead of us in P10, is on the ultra soft tyres, meaning he should be a hell of a lot quicker and of course get those tyres up to temperature quicker than ourselves. But as we go now into turn 3, 4 and 5, there's very much a snake of cars, and we're going to try and go around the outside of Kimi Raikkonen because cars are moving so slowly and really hindering our progress. Now, we're definitely quicker than that Alfa Romeo Sauber. Whether we are on these tyres is another matter, but we still do seem to be quicker than him as we now go on the run-up to turn 8 on the Mistral Straight, making an overtake finally into turn 8, and ahead of Kimi Raikkonen we go, and he's dueling with Kevin Magnussen behind, which is ideal for us because we can set our sights on the next car ahead, which is Carlos Sainz in the McLaren. So we've had a lot of battles with Sainz so far this season. We're 1.2 seconds behind him now, and hopefully we can be making some gains because this Renault car is of course the 4th quickest car on the grid and should on paper be quicker than the McLaren car, despite that McLaren of course also having a Renault engine in the back. But as we go slightly further ahead, you can see it looks as if that's Valtteri Bottas who is really holding up this train of cars. So also we've got Sebastian Vettel, so maybe it's Vettel who's dropped back, because he was of course leading the Grand Prix as Max Verstappen of course comes into the pit lane. So yeah, as expected, he hadn't pitted under the safety car. But what has happened to Sebastian Vettel? He's fallen right down the order now to what was P5 and has turned to P4 since Verstappen's come into the pit lane. And now we've got Daniel Ricciardo on lap 14 going for a move on Sebastian Vettel for what will be P4, or what should be P4 in this Grand Prix. He's going to try and go around the outside of turn 8, and as he goes into turn 9, the move has been confirmed. And what has happened to Sebastian Vettel? He's on the ultra soft tyres as well, so this should be his quickest stint of the race, as he does actually try and close back up to Daniel Ricciardo, but it's not enough. And the final 13 laps of this Grand Prix are really, really hotting up now. As you can see, we are onto the back of this train of cars. So our teammate is very much within touching distance, despite us double stacking under the safety car. And if Sebastian Vettel continues to fall down the order, it looks as if we could be placing ahead of one of the top 3 cars. Also we've got Max Verstappen behind us, so maybe him as well. And Pierre Gasly, I think, is behind us. So, anyway, we'll try and look ahead of us as much as we can as we close up now to the cars ahead. And DRS is enabled on lap 15 of this Grand Prix, which means we should be able to get a good look at Carlos Sainz. Although, of course, Sainz will get DRS on Grosjean, Grosjean on Vettel, and Vettel on Ricciardo. So it sort of cancels each other out. But, of course, we'll have to see whether we can get a good exit onto that Mistral Straight. Anyway, back to the action, and we are coming through this first section of corners now, trying just to get as close to Carlos Sainz as possible. The gap is 3.5 tenths of a second, and here we go then on to the main straight, and it looks as if Sebastian Vettel has fixed whatever issue he's got, because he has absolutely flown past our teammate Daniel Ricciardo and back up into P4 in this Grand Prix. Ricciardo evidently showing a good bit of pace, because you can still see the leaders that are only probably a couple of seconds up the road. So maybe Vettel still does stand a chance of getting on the podium in this race. And we fancy ourselves for a good finish, because we are now closing up on Carlos Sainz. We're going to try and go down the inside of the Spaniard into turn 11, but no, we think better of it. But he gets a very poor exit through the second part of turn 11, and we almost get a second bite of the cherry there. We're going to just try and stick behind Sainz, I think, because battling through this final sector is only going to lose you time if you're taking some weird lines. So I think we'll just save ourselves up for the next DRS zone. Of course, there is also a DRS zone on the pit straight. So we take quite a wide line into the final corners. There's a car coming into the pit lane. It's our teammate Daniel Ricciardo. And we've got the pit lane full of cars. So Pierre Gasly in the pit lane, our teammate Daniel Ricciardo in the pit lane, and someone else as well, which brings us up to P6 now. And this could be going alright if we can, of course, get to the end of the Grand Prix. It remains to be seen whether these soft tyres will last to the end. But we're very, very much fancying ourselves. And Sainz, of course, will have to pit, as will Romain Grosjean, because they're both on the super soft tyres. And, of course, in F1, you have to run at least 2 different compounds. And seeing as the 2 of them both started on the super soft tyres, they have to make that switch at some point. But it could be irrelevant because we're already going to be ahead of Carlos Sainz before he peels into the pit lane. Once again, making a move at turn 8 at the Mistral chicane. And now we're going to set our sights on the Haas car of Romain Grosjean for P4 in this Grand Prix. 11 laps to go, and it is very much spicing up. And now we've got 2 more cars, Bottas and Leclerc, into the pits, which brings us up to P3. And I think it's only Grosjean and Hamilton that are ahead of us currently. Now, Hamilton is quite a bit down the road. Not sure what the exact margin is, but you can't really see him on the mini-map, which sort of says it all. And now we come to the end of Sector 1 on lap 17. And Grosjean there getting a little bit out of shape through turn 3. So we're very much going to be within DRS range. And this Haas car, which is arguably looked quicker than our Renault in the last couple of rounds of the season, is now very much on the ropes. Of course, we're on the harder compound and we're closing in on Romain Grosjean. Is it going to be another move into turn 8 at the Mistral chicane? This time we're going to go around the outside and it looks as if we're going to get the move done. I'm surprised we actually know where to brake every time going into that chicane because there are no markings to tell us where to go. But regardless of that, we're up into P2 and it is only Lewis Hamilton and 10 seconds between ourselves and a possible race victory, would you believe it? And sure enough, come the end of lap 17, we've got Lewis Hamilton in the pits, which releases us into the lead of the Grand Prix for what I believe is the first time this season. Let me know if I'm completely wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the first time we've led a Grand Prix in this career mode. So it's Kevin Magnussen currently in P2 ahead of Alexander Albon. Now the 2 of them, I'm not sure whether they've got to pit again in this Grand Prix or not. But regardless, I still fancy ourselves against those 2. I still believe that we are quicker. And sure enough, yes, they did need to pit. And we go on to lap 20 now. And this is where the pursuit of Hamilton and Leclerc really comes into it. So the gap between ourselves and Lewis Hamilton is 8.6 seconds with 8 laps left in this Grand Prix. So it's Lewis Hamilton in P2. He's also on the soft tyres, so he's not, well, he shouldn't be significantly quicker than us, providing we can keep up the pace which we've shown in the first 20 laps of the Grand Prix. Then we've got Charles Leclerc sat in P3, who's probably about 3 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton, I think it's fair to say. And then just behind him is Valtteri Bottas on the super soft tyres. So yeah, of course, Bottas started on the ultra softs, means he can go on to the onto the supers. Then just behind him, we have got Pierre Gasly in the lead Red Bull in this race, ahead of Sebastian Vettel. So Vettel has had a pretty shocking middle stint of the race and has now got it all to do on the soft tyres in the final stint, but he is ahead of that man, our teammate Daniel Ricciardo, who is now being put under pressure from one of the Haas cars. I believe that is Romain Grosjean. So this is a real battle going on for P6 or P7 in this Grand Prix. I'm not completely sure which position it is. I think it's P7 that they're fighting over. But now it looks as if our teammate has just about got the legs to stay ahead of Grosjean. But what a battle that's going to be in the final 7 laps of the race. We'll have to keep our eyes on what's happening back there. But currently we're going to focus on what is happening at the front as we skip a couple of laps onto the end of lap 22. So on to lap 23 we go. We've got 5 laps left in this Grand Prix, and let's have a look to see what the gap is between ourselves and Hamilton. It's 5.3 seconds. So Hamilton closing in about 1 second per lap. And as we go on to the start of lap 24, let's see whether that is still the case. Yes, 4 seconds the gap is now. And if it keeps like this, we should at least have a chance of taking the race victory, because Hamilton, you'd imagine, will probably close up to us on the final lap of the Grand Prix, unless our tyres go off the cliff. So we've now skipped onto the start of lap 26. 2 laps left in this French Grand Prix, and we have given ourselves a shot at the victory. Hamilton 1 second back, Leclerc a further 3.7. But the question is now, can we keep up this pace? Because you'd imagine Lewis Hamilton will now be getting DRS on us on this lap 26. So we'll have the final 2 laps, which is what, 3.5 DRS zones to get ahead of us, because of course the final DRS zone will be cut off by the finish line. But yeah, sure enough, Hamilton is now only 0.8 of a second behind us as we go through the DRS detection zone. So if you take a look at that rear flap, it has opened and he is ready to pounce. Is he going to be able to make the move into the Mistral chicane? No, he looks a little bit too far back this time. But of course, as we know, the AI seem to close up a lot more into the next corner at turn 10. We're using all the ERS that we've got remaining in at the tank. We've got a little bit of fuel to use as well, which could come in handy. And now it looks like Hamilton is going to try and go for the move into turn 10. No, he isn't. He's going to stick behind for the meantime as we go very, very defensive into turn 11, taking a lot of curb on the inside there. And this is very much going to be a job of looking behind us rather than in front, as Hamilton darting all over the place on the track, just looking for a position to pass, as we get a very, very poor exit there off turn 12. And as we go through the sweeping right-hander of 13 and then into our least favourite corner at turn 14, we still stay ahead with 1 lap left in the Grand Prix. Of course, another DRS zone coming up right about now. So Hamilton will open his rear flap once again and get the assistance of DRS in a straight line. Is he going to be able to get ahead into turn 1? He moves to the outside. We're going to stay the inside, but it doesn't matter one bit because he is ahead of us. And we're going to stick behind for the meantime, because of course there is still 1 major DRS zone left in this Grand Prix, and we're just trying to dart all over the place. Anything to get our first victory of the season. And of course Charles Leclerc has very much joined the battle now. He's only half a second behind, but we will get DRS on Lewis Hamilton. We've got overtake, ERS, rich mix of fuel and DRS assistance, and we go now into the Mistral chicane. Are we going to go to the inside or the outside? It's looking like it's going to be the inside, and we are going to try and get ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who locks up and goes off the track, and it looks as if we have got ahead of him. And now we've got to worry about Charles Leclerc as Bottas also gets ahead of his teammate. It's a disaster of a final lap for Lewis Hamilton, and Leclerc is now going to try and go round the outside of us into turn 10. He goes off the circuit. We didn't quite touch. There was nearly contact, but everybody around us looks to have bottled the win of this Grand Prix. We've only got a few corners now left to negotiate. What is going on in this Grand Prix? It is an absolute minefield for the leading drivers, and somehow Valtteri Bottas now finds himself up in P2. But as we go through the penultimate corner, we've got no challenge from anybody. We go as defensive as we can, but there's no need to be. And we come through the final corner to, I can't believe I'm saying this, win our first Grand Prix of the season. What a victory that is, 25 points in the bag. And wow, what a Grand Prix that was. We're going to take a look at a replay of exactly what happened on the final lap. Relive, any excuse to relive this final lap. So you can see we got past Hamilton and he just locked up. There was no contact from anybody. He completely locked up. Then his teammate got past him. And then Pierre Gasly, he just completely blocked him. I don't know why, but he just chose to. And now Gasly, well, he had no front wing for the remaining half a lap of the race. And then we take a look at Charles Leclerc, the incident with him. Let me know down in the comments, was I in the wrong here? Should I have given Leclerc more room? As we slow it down, you can see there was no contact between the two of us. Leclerc just went wide and then chose to completely slow down. So once again, we'll take a look from this angle. So we go to the inside of turn 10, actually touch the curb, and then we run a little bit out wide from the understeer that we got. But we didn't actually touch Leclerc, and I think he probably had room maybe to get around the outside. But like I say, let me know, guys, down in the comment section below. So as you can see, we go onto the rumble strip, and we're still turning right. But yeah, let me know down below. Was I in the wrong? Was Leclerc in the wrong? Or was it just a racing incident? Regardless of that, we didn't get given a penalty, and we are on top of the podium. I didn't think we'd be a race winner this early in the season, but what a Grand Prix it was to take it. And the Renault boys, deservedly looking very happy. They've done a good job on this car so far this season. We haven't had an upgrade fail yet, And there you can see Arav, of course, celebrating the victory, which is always good to see. As we take the race victory, and we're spraying the champagne with Bottas and Leclerc. So fair play, Leclerc did make it onto the podium, but it was only P3 for the young Monegasque driver. Bottas must have thought, what is going on in front of me on that final lap? I probably should have got a view from Bottas just to see what happens from his point of view. But anyway, it's P1 from us. I didn't think we'd be able to even hold P3, but somehow we've done it with Bottas in second, Leclerc in third, Hamilton falling to fourth ahead of Gasly after he completely wiped him out on the final lap. With our teammate Daniel Ricciardo, big ups to him in P6. Vettel finishing with a DNF, so I don't recall seeing that on the screen. I've only just noticed that now, so terrible afternoon for the second Ferrari man, with Max Verstappen only getting 10th place, which is bizarre, considering he also made 2 stops, just like most drivers in the Grand Prix. But that means that we jump all the way up to P6 in the drivers' standings. We're ahead of Magnussen and ahead of Perez, who I see as our main rivals, but we're also ahead of Pierre Gasly. Even if it's just in the short term, that's good. So, Ricciardo, our teammate, all the way down in P12. We're smashing him this season. And we have single-handedly, if I do say so myself, brought Renault up to P4 in the Constructors' standings. So what a Grand Prix that was. Definitely the best one of the season. And I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I most certainly did, for obvious reasons. But leave a like down below if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Do take care. Bye-bye.